Good morning, my 10th grade English class. I know you're so excited to have another video today. I hope you're all doing well and staying in quarantine, maintaining social distance. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit more about poetry and figurative language. Now, if you have your books, and I know a lot of you don't because you didn't take them home, but if you have your books and you want to follow along, I'm going to be talking about some things on page 477 and 478, and then I'm going to be jumping around to some other pages. But I have also placed the poems that you are supposed to be reading onto the assignment today on Google Classroom so that if you don't have your book, you can still read the poems and do the work associated. So consider this our notes for today, and we will be testing over all of this information. We'll be testing over our poems and over the figurative language terms that we're going to go over today. All right, so to begin with, figurative language is just like what it sounds like. This is language we use to describe things in a creative way. Figuratively speaking, if you said, it's raining cats and dogs, it is not literally raining cats and dogs. It is just figurative to mean that it's raining a lot. So we use this kind of language all the time. Some of your favorite songs use a lot of figurative language in them. The Bible is also full of figurative language, so it's kind of interesting. So we're going to start with metaphor. Most of you already know this term. A metaphor is when you compare two things. It's a strong comparison. You're comparing two unlike things to show how they're alike. So one example is from Shakespeare. Juliet is the sun. She's obviously not the sun, but Shakespeare is comparing her to the sun. To show something about her that is like the sun. One of the comparisons in the Bible is Jesus is the good shepherd. So Jesus was not actually a shepherd, we know that. We know he was a carpenter. We also know that he was God's son. But he is a shepherd in that he takes care of his sheep, and we are supposed to be his sheep. So that's just one example of a metaphor. And so sometimes you can have a metaphor that extends. So right here, an extended metaphor in poetry can extend through several lines. And we see this a lot in poetry, and you will be seeing some examples of this in the poems that we'll be reading over the next few days. Secondly, we have simile. A simile is like a metaphor, only it compares two things using like or as. This is usually not considered as strong of a comparison as a metaphor. One example might be white as snow. We've seen that term used in lots of places, in lyrics and music and poetry. Our sins are white as snow. That is also biblical. Another one might be cold as ice. She's as cold as ice. Well, is she really as cold as ice to the touch? No. It just means that she doesn't have any feelings, or she is indifferent in some way. So those are a couple of things. Next, we have personification. We have already gone over this, but personification is giving human qualities to something that is not human. Now, if you remember back when we read Oedipus Rex, and especially when we read Julius Caesar, we talked about something that looks kind of like personification at times. When you address something that is non-human, as if it can talk back to you, that's called what? Hands? Anyone? Anyone? Yes, I know you got it. That's apostrophe, but that is not what we're talking about here. Personification. This is from Thriller, from Michael Jackson's Thriller. You start to freeze as horror looks you right between the eyes. Well, horror can't look at anything, right? So that's personification, making something seem human or have human characteristics that is obviously not human. So with that in mind, we're going to be looking at three poems today. The first one is on page 479. It is Simile. The second is Heart We Will Forget Him, page 487. Actually, that's the third one. I put them in the wrong order. Emily Dickinson. It doesn't really matter what order you read them in, but in the questions, I went in this order. Taxi is second. The Taxi by Amy Lowell, page 481. So I don't think these poems are very difficult to understand, and they're all very short. But they say a lot in just a few words, which is the beauty of poetry. So I want you to read the poems. I want you to message me or make a comment on Google Classroom if you have a question, if you don't understand something. I will be happy to go through and evaluate these poems if you would like for me to. But for now, I want you to read them, and I really want you to think, okay, what does that mean? What is the author trying to say? And can I find figurative language? Can I see simile? Can I see metaphor? Can I see personification? And then you'll answer the questions that I have for you. And it says it's a quiz, but it's really just a daily assignment. That way it just grades it as you go. The short answer questions I will be grading myself a little bit later. So good hunting, and I hope you do well.